How many of you know Kleros? Oh, good. Great. Well, so I'm going to speak about how we are thinking about real-world implementation of our protocol and what we call layer 2. And so for those who don't know Kleros, let's do a very short introduction. You have Alice from France who hires Bob from Guatemala to do a website, and they're in different countries, and there's a dispute about the scope of the work, and she's not going to court against Bob in Guatemala, of course. And imagine if they had used Kleros for this contract. Alice sends the payment into a smart contract that works as escrow, and they both agree that in case of a dispute, this is going to be solved by an arbitrator called Kleros. Kleros is a DAO, and the dispute starts, and the money stays locked into the smart contract, and Kleros is going to select a number of jurors who are going to analyze the evidence, and they are going to use this very beautiful interface. That's the Kleros court. They're going to analyze evidence, and they're going to vote who is right, and in this case, they vote that Alice was right, and the money that was into the escrow is sent to her, and this solves the contract problem. All good for now? Yeah. So, a big question in Kleros is how do you select jurors, right? Who are these people who are going to adjudicate the disputes? And you have this woman, she's a designer from, let's say, Vietnam, and she has a job as a designer, and she wants to make some money on the side, and she can do some money by arbitrating disputes into the Kleros platform. And for this, she needs to get a token called Pinakion, and this token gives you the right to be drawn as a juror in disputes in the Kleros protocol. So this woman deposits the token into one of Kleros courts. In this case, it would be a court about freelancing, for example, and different people take the token, and some of them are randomly drawn as jurors, and these guys will have the right to adjudicate the disputes. And after this, there's an incentive mechanism that will distribute tokens from those who voted incoherently to those who voted coherently. This is a whole different story that we are not going to address now, but there's William who works very deeply into these matters, how to make the protocol efficient, secure, etc. So when we typically present Kleros, we present it as a decentralized court system for the decentralized internet. As you know, many people here are building the Web3 application, right? The new internet that is going to replace the Facebooks, the Googles, and all these centralized monsters that make today's internet. And Dapps don't have a dispute resolution system, and 3 to 5% of all the internet transactions end in a dispute. So when we typically pitch Kleros in the context of the Web3 ecosystem, we present it as a DAO that is a court to which all of the other DAOs are going to send their disputes and then get back a decision made by the Kleros jurors. Good? But we also typically get lots of questions about, okay, yeah, we get the part of the decentralized internet, but can Kleros work like in the real life mainstream use cases that we have now? Like, could eBay use Kleros for resolving disputes in their platform? Could an insurance regulator use Kleros to adjudicate disputes between an insurance company and a customer, right? The customer claims that he needs to be paid for a problem with the car, and the insurance company said no, so who is right? I'm not going to court with these problems, but if Kleros can do it cheaper, faster, so that's a very good use case. And also think about all of the problems that, like you have disputes between a user and a utility company and the creditor company, all those small claims that are not really solved by courts and to which they're not a very cheap solution and very effective solution now. Could Kleros be in charge of solving this? So besides the Web3 ecosystem, there is a whole world of potential use cases where Kleros protocol could be used. So, a number of questions of how do you connect this ethereal protocol, which is basically a system of incentives for different people to adjudicate disputes in a fair way. How do you connect this with the real life and the real world of business? I'm going to tell you a bit about the exploration we are doing. We don't have answers because we are working on this, but at least for you to know how we are thinking about these problems and the problems we have found in the way. So if you are building a protocol which is decentralized and you want to address real-life use cases, so you will have some experience from us to lead your way. So the first thing is, of course, as any entrepreneur knows, so what's your value proposition? What is that you're going to offer the customer? What problem does your product solve? And of course, coming from the crypto ecosystem, we went to the customers, Kleros is decentralized and trustless, woohoo, And then we figure out that, well, maybe that doesn't work for everyone. The decentralized and trustless thing is great for the DAO ecosystem, but not every company of the real world really cares about decentralization and trustlessness. So what is a value proposition that companies from the real world can understand and can relate to? Kleros is potentially cheaper and faster than other methods for resolution. And why is this? Because the protocol has a huge network of users, or potentially has a huge network of users, that when they start to adjudicate disputes, it can scale very fast the amount of jurors. And if you have lots of jurors adjudicating disputes, then the cost and the speed, so the cost will go down a lot, and the speed of resolution will go down below existing methods that you have now. But not just that, because when a real-life customer is going to evaluate Kleros, he's not going to evaluate Kleros only against other protocols for decentralized justice. They're going to evaluate this against potentially other methods for resolution that they could use, including machine learning, which is a very important trend that is growing in the ODR world. So it's important for you to present to the potential customer exactly where in this continuum of different solutions, where is the problem that Kleros can solve best. Kleros is not the best idea for very simple problems that could be solved maybe faster and more cheaply by AI. And Kleros, at the moment, is not the best idea for more complex disputes that may involve more than two parties. So there is a sweet spot on which the value proposition that Kleros can provide is ideal for the customer. So one thing is that, think about the value proposition, and in this case, fast and cheap. And there is another thing that can be valued by customers. Kleros is a transparent resolution method. Why do we say it's transparent? Well, because all the procedure for resolution is encoded in the blockchain. All the way in which jurors are selected is going to be verifiable by anyone who wants to do it on the blockchain. And you can't verify how eBay solves disputes, right? Because they do this within their offices. But you can verify that Kleros selected the jurors in the way it was said that they were going to be selected. So this is what the Kleros proposition of value looks like in the mainstream world, right? It can be cheaper, it can be faster, and it can be more transparent than existing methods for resolution. So the first tip for you to think when you are thinking about your offer of your protocol to mainstream customers is, what is your value proposition? And how can this solve a real problem of real companies of the real world? For this, you need to really understand your customer and who is actually going to use your protocol, what are the companies that you can address with your solution, What are the drivers that are of the decision of these companies to adopt or not adopt your protocol? And for this exploration, it's very useful to think about user personas. For example, you have this woman, of course, she's called Alice, and she is the claims manager of an imaginary e-commerce company called Match Trade. And as the complaint manager, she is under pressure by different agents in her organization. On the one hand, her CEO, of course, he wants her to spend less money, and so he's cutting her budget. So now she has lots of disputes to resolve, and she doesn't have enough budget to do it. So she can be potentially interested in a method that can resolve dispute cheaper than how she does it today. And another very important aspect for the e-commerce companies is how fair is the resolution process. Do you typically think that these processes are fair? You know how eBay or Amazon, they resolve disputes? It's a really big problem for them because users complain all the time about this, because these platforms, they are not in the business of solving disputes. They are in the business of maximizing revenue, and so they typically favor the big party of the disputes, and this creates lots of reputational loss. So there is, in principle, a business case to be made to these companies that they could just outsource the resolution process to someone who can do it in a more transparent way and that the customer can trust. Okay, so after you identified the organization you want to target and the user persona and understood the problems that they have, you have to understand the friction points that may affect your implementation. And let me tell you something, that mainstream organizations, they don't always use crypto. And also, they don't always understand your protocol. And they don't always have the time to start learning how this works. And so this is a very important friction point, right? And for this matter, it can be very interesting to know how Bitcoin became a massive protocol, how it became massively used. As you know, Bitcoin started in 2008 with the paper of Satoshi Nakamoto, and at the beginning it was kind of a toy for nerds to play with. It was really extremely hard to use. This is the first Bitcoin wallet, the Bitcoin Core wallet. And what was the point where Bitcoin started to become like more massively adopted? Do you remember? Yes? Very well, when Coinbase came out, right? Coinbase was founded in 2012, and what was the value proposition? So this is part of the original pitch deck of Coinbase when they went out of their Y Combinator acceleration program, and this is what they said that they would do. So Bitcoin is too difficult to use, so we're going to give better tools and easier to use for onboarding more people into the crypto ecosystem. So that's what Brian Armstrong was pitching at the end of Y Combinator. Of course, the purists were saying, yeah, right, okay, but that's not your keys, not your crypto, of course, you all know that here. But you know what, like, not everyone cared about that. For some people, they just wanted to have crypto and not being worried about losing the keys, or yeah, right? And for a large number of user segments, it made sense, and this can be seen in the adoption rates that Coinbase enjoyed after the creation. But the important thing to learn here is that with Coinbase, users didn't have to interact directly with the Bitcoin protocol. They interacted with an intermediary company that provided all of this layer of services of security, of assets, etc. And Coinbase was only one of those layers that gave users an experience that was better suited to their needs. On top of the Bitcoin protocol, a whole layer of other companies started to emerge and addressing different user segments. And this is a bit the way in which we are thinking about the creation and the growth of the Kleros Layer 2. Let's go back to Alice, right? So she is the claim manager, and she needs to cut costs. She needs to have a more fair resolution process, and she can't use Kleros directly. So what's going to happen in the future is that some company, let's call it like Fair Commerce, which is going to be built on Kleros, is going to go to her and offer her a service for resolving disputes for e-commerce, like a business process outsourcing, right, a BPO. So, hello, Alice, I'm going to offer you, send us disputes, and we will send you the solutions, and you paid like €1 per dispute solved, and that's it. And you don't have to worry about anything else. So let's say that the Alice users in the Match Trade platform, they fill this claim form, and after they fill this form and the claim starts, so the user doesn't know he's using Fair Commerce or Kleros. The dispute is actually solved by Kleros into the Kleros platform, but the decision is sent back to the user in the Fair Trade platform through the work of an intermediary company called Fair Commerce. So this is how the system would work. So what does Fair Commerce do? Well, he processes payments, right? He creates cores in Kleros for addressing disputes, for creating disputes. And he handles all of this backend that Alice company doesn't want to handle. So it's handled by this intermediary company. And this company can collect a fee for this work, right? In a way that is not completely different of how Coinbase uses the Bitcoin ecosystem. Coinbase uses Bitcoin ecosystem or another crypto ecosystem as a provider of monetary services. So Fair Commerce uses the Kleros ecosystem as a provider of dispute resolution services, right? And Kleros has many use cases. Kleros is basically a protocol where people are incentivized to make decisions in a fair way. Some of these decisions may be applied to disputes. Others may be applied to content moderation. Imagine like Reddit outsourcing their content moderation service to a company called Safe Content. And this Safe Content company uses the Kleros network of jurors to moderate content in a fair way. And imagine the IMF, which is the French regulator for financial services. They will have to start in the future handling lots of new digital assets, right? Lots of these digital assets are going to be scams or are going to be non-compliant with French financial law. So regulators can handle a couple of them, right? But what when you start having like thousands of new coins, tokens, or crypto equity, which are being created every day, like, can you find a method that will red flag those that seem like scam very fast before they become too big and before they can create a big problem? So this is a way in which even a government and a regulator like the IMF could potentially use the service of Kleros, in this case through an intermediary company called True Finance. So this is the generic way in which we expect this system to work. Like, you have on the one side a customer, an intermediary company, and the protocol, which provides the service of the crypto network, incentivizing jurors to make decisions. And as Kleros has lots of different use cases, we can have some companies that are going to specialize in travel, disputes, others in gaming, others in insurance, in commerce, and all of these are going to be using the Kleros protocol for dispute resolution. Of course, as people had to come to terms with the fact that Coinbase was not fully decentralized, and it may not be a problem because the layer 2 companies, even if they are centralized, they are still less centralized than the existing services that Amazon or eBay use for dispute resolution. So it's going to be in the middle between the decentralized and trustless world of Kleros for Dapps, where everything is on-chain enforced and DAOs and that, and the centralized world that we have now. But in the end, the way into which disputes were solved by these true commerce or fair commerce or true finance companies still can be verified into the Ethereum blockchain, right? And this gives an extra layer of transparency that does not exist today in the Amazon and eBays of the world. So it's important for you, if you're building on your protocol or incentivizing people to build on your protocol, to define what is your layer 2 and what type of problem your layer 2 is going to solve. And also, after you did this, so you are going to start addressing customers who are corporates and enterprise users. And this requires lots of work in like credibility of your protocol and your team, right? In our case, we were incubated by Thomson Reuters, and this gave us lots of insights on how to address these segments of customers. And more recently, we received a grant by the BPI, it's a French bank, to build this new layer to develop the kind of things that we need for this strategy to work. So financial resources and social capital are going to be very important to have credibility to address the corporate use cases. Then, of course, you will need to incentivize the people who are going to build these layer 2 companies, and they're going to bring your protocol to the end users. At Kleros, we have a fellowship program, and one of the tracks of this fellowship, this is a research program which has different tracks. One of them is for studying crypto economics, another one is for studying computer science, but one of them is about business. And this business track is about helping people to build this type of layer 2 companies. And there's already a team from Brazil that is building a layer 2 company based on Kleros for disputes in the construction industry. You know, there's lots of construction industry disputes because of the contractor and this was not made on time. So one company is already starting to do this service. And there is a team of, for now they are students, but maybe they will move forward. And this is a company from France, actually. They're a student from the legal tech program at Assas. And they created a company or a project to use Kleros for accelerating claim management in disputes happening in the sharing economy in France. So that's another case of potentially growing ecosystem. So in short, like we are just starting our layer 2 strategy. Up to now, all of our effort was made into the creating the protocol, making it work, improving the crypto incentives for agents, etc. We, of course, we are still, and this is our main focus, is using Kleros for resolution of all the DAO disputes. But we are now also starting to develop this new strategy about layer 2. And for this, the learnings that we had, just to summarize, and that I want to share with you is, okay, what is your value proposition? So what is the problem you solve for these real-life companies? Okay? To develop this proposition, you need to understand your customer. You need to understand the analysis of the world and see what problems they are trying to solve in their positions and the type of incentives they have and the kind of pressures to which they are subject. You have to, of course, identify friction points affecting the use of your protocol. In the case of Kleros, I just mentioned one that was about, they don't use crypto. There may be potentially other friction points to solve that may address the privacy of disputes. So you need to see what are the the privacy or the friction points that in your case are relevant for your value proposition. And try to partner with mainstream companies, which will give you first access to knowledge of how enterprises make decisions for hiring these types of services. And you have to see what service you want to offer first. But you need to then do business development in this way. And of course, try to help all the people that you see will start building on your layer 2, right? People who are going to build companies that will use your protocol to solve disputes of the end customers. So this is our experience so far, and hope it helps for some of you to start thinking about these issues. And thank you very much, and I am open to your questions.
Hello. Let's say a lot of business development happens in layer 2 in the short term. How can they sell these services to other people without a massive installed base of users on the protocol? And what will you do to, what's your strategy to grow this installed base of jurors?
In the case of Kleros, that's not that a big problem, because the hard, every marketplace has a hard part and an easy part. In our case, the hard part is the demand of arbitration services part. Like, it's about having enough disputes. When we have disputes, so there is money to be made by jurors, and so more people come and they go and they stake, and so when there is more disputes solved, so more demand users come because they say, oh, this is working. Okay, let's solve our disputes here, and more jurors will come. So the chicken and the egg problem on our side can be solved by solving the demand side of the marketplace.
That was a very nice presentation. I have 2 questions. The first question is, what do you think the business model for layer 2 companies is in regards to charging enterprises? And the second question is, have you done any research on how these layer 2 companies will use crypto and deal with the volatility and fluctuation in prices and convert that to fiat for the enterprises?
Yeah, so about the business model, like our hunch is it will probably start by like handling commission on each transaction that is resolved by the layer 2 company. So the layer 2 company like collects money from the customer, from the e-commerce platform, and then has to pay the Kleros network fees for jurors. So probably they're going to collect a fee between what they like, their cost of paying jurors and what they sell to the customer. But of course, innovation can happen, right? That's like what I see as a low-hanging fruit. But maybe some like Steve Jobs of layer 2 comes. Oh, I have a better business model. Like, I solve doing it in this way, and like that's where the innovation of the entrepreneurs is going to come and create things that we didn't think. About the volatility, you can use stable coins, right? So that's not a problem, right? Well, no? Well, I'm still free to speak after the talk, and I'll be around all day. So thank you very much, and well, thanks for coming.